All right, we are joined by model and musician Yves Dropper, with drag queen and executive assistant Peachez, and costume designer to the stars, Andy Jean. We're going to jump right into this. Let's first talk about different kinds of activism, whether it be in the street, in the workplace. Peachez, let's go to you. What do you feel like is most important to you? The type of activism.
For me right now, I feel most passionate about being in the streets and being vocal and being part of that presence. I think that especially just the way that the media is consuming this all, it means a lot to have those numbers out there and for there to be these large mobs in the street to see. Additionally, I do work in the corporate world, so there is a lot to be said for my activism inside of an establishment that is run by all white men and and people that have a lot of say in the way that legislation works, where I am one of, I think, 5 Black people there. So I kind of am playing the balance game of those two options.
Yeah, I completely understand that. Yves, we're seeing a lot of people on social media policing the way that people are voicing their solidarity and whatnot, or protesting. How do you feel about that?
Well, I've been out every day, and I was out before the curfew was lifted, and I saw, police throwing women to the ground. I saw police macing kids. I saw police opening their car doors to bikers who were protesting and letting the bikers fall to the ground. And the news portrays us as these violent animals who are causing havoc, when in reality, we are outside peaceful, and it really is the law enforcement who entices us in a way to make us react like this. And so my whole stance on it is I feel like one of the most powerful ways of activism for all people is knowledge, because knowledge is such an all-empowering thing. The more we know about what's going on around us, the more we can protect each other when we're outside in the streets.
Yeah, agreed. Andy, I see you nodding a bit.
Yes.
What do you have to say?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree. I think that it is imperative that we, as myself, as Black trans folks, are seen, right? That we are not continually sidelined or always thought of afterwards, right? We are not an afterthought. We are here. We've actually been here. And moving forward, we need to be centered in the conversations.
Absolutely. We're talking about, let's shift to, say, in the workplace. What do you think the place of protesting or in the workplace is? I'll go to Peachez, since you're working in the corporate world.
I think it is such a radical moment right now, where for so long, especially myself, I felt like I couldn't speak up, I couldn't say things. And even just one of my own personal experiences, a week or two ago, we had an all-company meeting, and we were sitting and we were speaking, and a lot of, again, older white men had things to say. And I finally, for the first time in my professional career, felt all right to get upset and to speak exactly what I've been feeling for years and years and years. And I was able to be a 31-year-old person crying in front of all these people in a corporate setting. And I think that is so important and is something that needs to be seen, and something that is finally able to be seen right now, and has a lot of this sudden validity that it didn't in years past.
Yeah, that is absolutely true. And I know that we've all been out in the streets. I know that I've seen both Andy and Peachez at a number of vigils and a number of marches. And I have seen on your social media, Yves, that you have been out there in these streets. Boo.
Yeah.
You have been doing it. What about situations that aren't necessarily as confrontational? What do you think the role of activism is in that situation? Andy?
Yeah, I mean, I think for us, I think it's just really great, like as a community, that we are actually coming together and to really be united on that front, right? That I think what's been powerful from my experience is that being able to see white folks, Latina folks, like our Muslim like community members as well, that everyone's saying, "Hey, this is not right. We can no longer accept this type of violence, this type of discrimination, because literally, if we do not stand up for one group, right, then we'll be next. Which group will be next?" And I think we definitely see, like with our leadership, right, that literally it just seems that each day it could just spin the wheel and it could be you.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's a place for not everyone is as emboldened as, say, the four of us are to like be out in the streets and whatnot. Some people are keyboard warriors and are checking people online, and some people
Right.
are using their funds and donating to different organizations and whatnot. And I think it's important to recognize that those are all equally as important. Not everybody has to be out getting buck wild in the streets. You know what I mean?
I will also say, being outside, something that's like inspired me is as a cis person, I've definitely through my life have like cut off friendships with other cis people who don't stand up for trans rights. Mm-hmm. And being out in the streets and seeing other black cis straight men like saying Black trans lives matter right next to me it has just been like emotional to say the least, because when I first came out when I was 15, I got the shit beaten out of me by a group of guys that I was friends with. And I haven't spoken to them since that whole situation happened when I was a teenager. But being outside here in Bushwick, walking under the bridge and seeing like a bunch of dudes who look like me speaking up for the rights of Black trans people who laid out the blueprint for rebellion has just been such an empowering thing for me to see, to show that like no matter where you are in your life, there's never enough growing. You can always grow. There's always room for you to learn more.
Yeah, that work is never done. It's
right.
Never done. Moving on to a sort of a different subject. It seems as if the media is painting the protesters with a broad brush, as we keep hearing the word rioters. We keep hearing the word looters. What is the difference, say, Yves, what is the difference between marchers and rioters and looters to you?
Well, I would say a protester is someone who's out there with a poster, or someone who's like using their voice, leading a chant. A rioter is someone there, I feel like, who is trying to facilitate or sometimes infiltrate a fight of some sort. And a looter is out there to go and loot, to take, to steal. But honestly, in my like personal opinion, I am not really against any of it. Just because, like, I don't feel like it is our job to police the way someone is feeling in this moment and how someone is reacting to it. And just because someone has, like, a certain reaction to a centralized pain that we're all experiencing at the same time, I don't really think it's our place and time to be like, oh, like, in that moment, don't do this. But also, if we pay attention to what our young kids are out here stealing, kids are stealing sneakers and chains, but what do we raise our kids to put their values in? You know what 100%. I mean? It's like, what do we teach people is like the most important. Like some kids that are out here are raised on sneakers and misogyny. So if we are having people to go outside and loot, what are they going to steal? And it's like, what are you making, like, what are you raising the beliefs to be that your children hold in this world? And so I feel like a lot of it, honestly, the biggest blame has to be our society. Like, do not blame these kids for going and stealing a pair of Jordans when that's the only thing that's ever been made important to them. And also look at the neighborhood that we're coming from, the neighborhood that we were placed in from the beginning to fail. So it's like, I'm not against it, because I feel like we have every right to be angry and we have every right to express ourselves in this moment, because we have been quiet for so fucking long. And at some point in time, I mean, something's got to happen.
She said, what goes around comes around.
Right, exactly.
What about, Peachez, what about the allegations that, we're hearing about police inciting the riots? It's not the protesters out there doing these things. It's the police that are egging people into these situations.
It's not an allegation if there's proof. I have heard plenty of stories. I have seen firsthand it happen. I have seen videos. When it's right there in front of you, it's not an allegation. And for me, when there's footage of just a pallet of bricks randomly sitting in front of a courthouse, when there's footage of police officers unloading bricks and cinder blocks and just setting them out on the streets, knowing damn well that there are people out there that are furious and are looking for something to throw. We've all stubbed our toe on a coffee table and picked something up to throw. Right. This is that times 400 years. And it blows my mind, one, that there are still people out there that think that it's not something that is being done by the police, and it also is something that I keep on having to say, it is right there in front of you. You can choose not to believe it, and that's on you, but I also need you to be completely silent then when you see footage of rioters or when you see footage of looters, when it was started by the police.
Right. I hear you. I 100% hear that. I 100% agree with that. It's become a situation in which it's super counterintuitive on the police part. You know what I mean? It's like you're wanting these people to be calm and you wanting them to quote unquote behave, but you're inciting this violence. You're inciting this, this reaction. You're trying to get this reaction out of people. It just doesn't make any sense to me.
Agitate.
It harks right back to the curfew.
Exactly.
These protests were completely peaceful. Then all of a sudden you tried to silence everybody. You told everybody to go inside. You told everybody you don't get to do this anymore. We're taking away your civil liberties even more than what you were protesting about before. Of course people are going to get mad. And that's when it got, at least in New York, that's when it got 10 times worse.
Exactly.
Because you have people feeling threatened constantly, and that is 100% on the mayor, that is 100% on Governor Cuomo, and that is 100% on the police who are starting all of this.
Absolutely. It's one thing to be a cisgendered white person in these protests out in the street, but as for people of color and queer people of color, do you feel safe? Do you feel included in these protests, Andy?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely say that because of the community that I'm a part of, right, that I definitely feel seen. But in terms of safety, I think a lot of the marches and a lot of the organizers have implemented ways that literally that white people to the front, right, all the bicyclists up to the front. So I feel like we are literally learning that we also need to protect the Black trans bodies, the Black bodies that are out here protesting. And so I think it also just affirms to see even folks come out with their kids, right? And they're saying, no, you will not agitate. You will not tell these people that they are wrong any longer. So I think for me, definitely, I felt safe because I literally, also have privilege because I'm, 6 foot somebody. So, but also too, but also too because I feel that literally I personally feel like I'm deeply seated in my purpose, and I just feel that at this point, this virus really drove us all into our homes, and so now these injustices are driving us out. Right? We've had time to sit and to reflect and to absorb all of this trauma, and we won't do it anymore.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You better say that. Yves, you mentioned earlier that that it is important to protect Black trans bodies.
Yeah.
Why is that?
Well, I feel like whether we're talking about whatever community we're talking about, the most vulnerable are our trans people in any community that we associate ourselves with. So it just makes sense to me to protect those who are most vulnerable. And also, just because I say vulnerable doesn't mean weak, because our most vulnerable and our strongest are our trans people. And so I feel like if we're in a place of community and a place together where we know that our trans people are amongst us, I feel like it is just natural. It should be natural to take care of each other. And I honestly sometimes have a lot of friction in conversation with people in talking about the importance of protecting trans people, not only in our streets, but in our language and the way that we speak and the way that we talk about each other.
Say that.
it's one thing to protest outside, but if you're not protesting inside of your house, what we're doing outside is fucking pointless. It's not necessary. So it's like, I feel like if we are not protecting trans bodies in language, in action, in love, then they might as well be on the street by themselves. Like,
absolutely.
So it's like, it is like, it's do or die. Like, if I'm outside because I'm gonna die for you. Like, I'm not going outside just to fucking walk in front of you and like clap my hands and shout. I'm outside because I'm going to die for you. And that should be the way it is for all of our trans people, specifically Black trans people.
Yeah, I mean, I know that, like, for me personally, all of my activism in this situation has been specifically geared towards protecting Black trans people. Right. Every sign I've made, every post I've made has been about that, because I think, you know, if we are sitting up here as a people of color, as Black people in America, asking white people to step up for us, asking them to use their privilege to help our marginalized community, then I have to use what privilege I have to help another marginalized community.
Absolutely.
That are still my brothers and sisters. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Mm-hmm. But from 2018 to 2019, we lost 54 Black trans women that we even know of. Because sometimes our siblings are misgendered in these police reports, so it takes us months to even know that someone that we saw at a shelter is dead now, because they're being dead named and we have no idea where they actually are. So I feel like we don't even need permission to change the narrative. We should just change the fucking narrative.
Absolutely.
Like, it's up to us to write it ourselves. Because I mean, we can like ask people to stand with us and stand in solidarity and all these things like that. But at some point in time, like, we just have to literally band together and be like, okay, like, we're like claiming this for ourselves. We know we're valid and we know we're here. So like, we don't have to wait for the permission of anyone to write this ourselves.
Peachez, have you seen any, like, personally, while you're out in the streets, have you seen any evidence of this, of somebody shielding, you know, trans people and, you know, people in our community?
The very first march that I went to was from 125th up in Harlem, and it was the one that kind of was very early on, and we walked over to the freeway. It's not specifically in that instance, I don't know that there was any specific trans protection happening, but that was the first time that I was in the middle of something and immediately heard organizers start to say, white bodies to the front. You need to be on the outside, you need to be in the front. And I think that has echoed throughout all of these protests, and it's been absolutely fascinating to watch. And it was the first time that I, as a queer Black person, felt fully protected. As we marched up to a line of bicycle cops wearing their riot gear, ready to do whatever they wanted to stop us from getting on a freeway, which we ended up turning the corner and getting on anyways. So that was the first time that I saw it, and I know that it's been echoing throughout all of these protests.
Yes, and then I would also say, like during the curfew, a lot of the protests that I was participating in, they were very active in saying that literally our Black, trans, and brown trans sisters and brothers, we are providing Lyfts and Ubers to get you home before 8 p.m.
Wow.
And I mean, it was overwhelming, right? To actually see people say, wait a minute, what do you need? Here's my credit card. Here's, like, literally, we need to get you home, because we know that literally left alone, those are going to be the effects.
I've witnessed that pretty much almost at every protest that I've been to, and I've been to a protest every single day since they've begun. Yes. And one of the best things I've seen was there was a brown trans girl in a wheelchair. We were trying to get onto the causeway, and literally 4 people lifted her wheelchair off the ground and brought it over to the other side. And I was like, this is exactly what I'm talking about. Like, you fucking pick up that wheelchair, like, and take it over. And it was just amazing to see that happen. I'm like, this is what we need, like, figuratively, literally, emotionally, like, in every aspect. It's like literally lifting each other up off the ground.
Yeah, I mean, because we Black trans people have contributed so much to who we are today in 2020 as queer people of color, or just queer people in general. You know, everybody likes to speak about Marsha P. Johnson, you know, as the Black trans woman who threw the first brick at Stonewall and whatnot. What else? Like, I know there are countless others. Andy, can you speak to other like contributions from trans people that we would be without? What are we going to lose?
I mean, yeah, I mean, definitely. I mean, I think like, to me, the forefront, right, is really like our culture, right, in terms of like the things that we inherently value, the things that we inherently quote, the things that we use to define, right, our blackness, our black excellence. I mean, all those little things come from Black trans women, right, even down to the seasoning and in the chicken, as Deanne Fields stated, but also even like literally health and beauty, all these things, right, that we use to preserve our bodies that now other cis folks are using to enhance their bodies as well. So I just feel like we cannot continue to negate, we cannot continue to minimize the Black trans experience, right? We need to uplift and to protect at all times.
I think even our vernacular, the amount of white girls that would be shook to their core to know that whenever they talk about spilling tea, whenever they're talking about calling somebody honey, or whenever they're talking about voguing,
hey, mama.
Hey mama,
right?
Things that they have no idea is rooted in the Black trans community, it would blow most of this country's mind. And I think that it is so important that even inside of the queer community that we remember the things that we're using, the things that we're saying, the way that we are dancing in these clubs. It started in the Black trans community,
right? And I also want to mention too, like I was at a march where someone brought up that we also have to take into account like the Marsha P. Johnsons that we don't even know their names.
Absolutely.
Like the Black trans women who were around that time who were taking in kids and literally being house mothers, and we have no idea what their names are, but they are the ones who are the credit for every single dance move, every single style option that we go for, every single slang word that we use. It is all owed to Black trans women. And there are some who have literally shaped our entire culture, and we will never know their names.
Right.
From half wigs to lace fronts, okay,
right,
all of it,
right,
exactly.
all of even this blonde one I got on my head. Cut.
Come on.
Let's switch gears a little bit. Let's talk about internet activism. Let's talk about how important it is to be vocal via, say, Twitter or Facebook or TikTok or any social media platform. Let's start with Peachez.
I will start by saying I think that it is kind of a dangerous world. I think right now there is a lot of emphasis on cancel culture, which personally I think there's some validity to. I think cutting people out of your life is, if it's a tumor and it's hurting you, let it go. But I also think that it is dangerous for us as a people to start jumping on people if they're not being vocal online, because you have no idea what their experience is. You have no idea what they're going through. On the flip side, I think it is the quickest and easiest way to, one, educate yourself and educate those around you. I think it will extend your reach to people that you will never ever get to talk to. I have friends that are living in Hawaii that I can only speak to through the internet or through communications like FaceTime and things. So inside of that, I think it is really a great way to help unify a message across millions and millions of people. But I also think that we have to kind of tread lightly, because not everybody uses the internet the same way that you use it. And if you jump on people, it can be really hurtful to the cause.
Yeah, I think there needs to be emphasis placed upon research. I think so many people are getting their information from memes and not or a headline, and they see that, share it, and move on about their business. And I think there needs to be more emphasis placed upon do a quick Google search, see if you can verify this information. Like it's not
abolish to say abolish the police or defund the police is a frightening thing if you have no idea what it is.
Thank you.
But if you take the time to read it,
absolutely,
and if you understand that is a structural change, that is a systemic change, that is a culture change, then it makes it makes sense, especially if you're a Black person.
This is
for a lot of people.
I definitely use every possible tool that I can on my platform to inform or educate in whatever capacity I can. through social media, but there are some times where I definitely fall short and make the mistake of calling someone a fucking idiot. Because if I'm like, if I'm like just telling you like this person was murdered, and you're telling me about their like this person was arrested for marijuana charges in 2014, use that same energy that you use to look up these charges to look up the actual effects and injustice that happened to trans people. Like,
these selective Nancy Drews, honey. Selective Nancy
I'm just like, you took the time to do this. Do you have a phone? How are you making this comment? You must have a phone. Please use the internet and look these things up. You can literally look anything up. Please just research. Like, this is not a buffet. I'm giving you the plate. The food is here. Go get your food. This is a plate. Go. Like, it gets me really, really like just heated sometimes because people want to like use all the energy for the wrong thing, and I'm like, this is just misused energy.
Absolutely. And then, like I was going to say lastly is that, like, I think it's something that is so apparent that I observed is that, like, how many people, right, can quote Tiger King, right? Literally within this amount of time, people are so invested in, like starting committees, right, to figure out how Carol got away with this. But literally, if we did that same investigative work to figure out why the police department, right, and why these perpetrators continue to get off, right, are continually not. Somehow they're absolved, right, of these crimes that they've committed. So,
right. I mean, where to me, I'm like, where are the white gay men who were talking about A Star Is Born? Where are y'all at?
La La Land, La La Land.
No, they're in Chromatica, girl. They're in Chromatica.
They're in Chromatica.
Well, since we brought up the police, let's talk about defunding the police. Let's talk about that phrase specifically because Peachez is hot. Okay, Peachez, go off. What does defund the police mean?
For those that do not know, currently in New York City, their operating budget is $6 billion with a hard B. That is the same as the entire army of the country of Ukraine, the whole nation. De Blasio said he was going to take, I think, he'd made like $1 billion cut or $1 million cut, made it like $5.4 billion. At the same time, our summer youth education program has been completely cut, which included a full training and workplace training and vocational training for trans youth, for queer youth, for specifically children of color. NYCHA has no money right now. That's the New York City Housing Authority. I just read an article the other day that talked about because of coronavirus and because of the lack of budget, they are just letting black mold go right now inside of NYCHA. And for those of you that are not paying attention, people that are living inside of these low-income housing units are brown people, are black people, are people that can't get out and because the system is built against them. So we're saying you need to take this money that you are dumping into this absurd obsession with policing and running this city and put it into programs like NYCHA and into SYEP and into things that are going to help the community and just lift up from a different place. And I think a lot of that starts with retraining and repurposing all of what this is. Paired with defunding the police is the idea of abolishing the police. And that comes with an idea that there should be trained people from the community that specialize in things like domestic disputes, things like mental health. If you are calling a cop that was trained for 6 months and has no idea how to de-escalate somebody that is schizophrenic, that is suicidal in a moment, that is bipolar and does not realize they're in a manic state and are about to do something that they don't know what they're doing, it serves no purpose and is likely going to end up with somebody getting hurt. And that has been the case over and over and over. So I think it's a whole shift in our thinking about where we're putting our money.
Yeah, I just found out the other day that the New York City public school system, I want to say, I may be fudging this number, but it's an astronomical number. It's like 3 million or 13 million, one of the two, $1 million they pay to the police department to have police in schools.
This is what I was going to bring up.
You can't feed these kids. You can't.
I was literally going to bring this up because I do a lot of work here locally at high schools in Brooklyn, and I go to schools and like we do workshops and we bring them pizza and we hang out with them for the day. And a lot of people think that kids are stupid, but kids are so fucking smart and they know stuff.
They know.
So I'm telling myself, I'm like, some of these kids are telling me they don't even have $2 to pay for school lunch. And I'm like, why is that? Like, if we're already showing kids, like, the government is showing kids the importance of where the money is going. So I want to bring this back to looting. So if you wonder why kids are looting and why kids are breaking into these stores, you've already made it clear from a financial standpoint where you stand. Because look where the money is going. Look where the money is at. We have to have a GoFundMe to get nurses masks. Nurses who work in the hospital, mask.
But the cops got riot gear.
Because the cops have riot gear. I'm like, make it make sense. Make it make sense.
And these kids don't have counselors in the schools, right? So literally what the problem is it's like, so now they're supposed to graduate high school, right? And then somehow become what? How are they supposed to get into college? How are they supposed to know the tools to actually prep them, right? To get their SAT scores, right? To get the ACT, right? To start getting your college early entrance exams. They don't have the counselors or folks set up, but literally there's 2 cops, right? For 2 shifts at a school.
Exactly. But even
But
even down to simple subjects, like when I was in Harlem, there was this group of beautiful Black girls that were just like, we just want to do science projects.
Wow.
They just want to do science projects. And it's just like, there's no money for them to do science projects. Like, think about that. But we have fucking guns, like, by the dozen for 1 officer?
Yep.
Make it make sense. Girls just want to do science projects.
I'm getting information from the head office that the U.S. police budget is $155 billion.
Listen.
$155 billion.
Okay, so let me add to that. The other day,
hell no.
The City Council of New York City did their public safety hearing, which was, I watched about 6 hours of that hearing. It was a complete circus. It was gaslighting by the NYPD.
Oh, yeah.
That's a whole nother, we'll have to have a whole nother panel for that.
Exactly.
But something that did come up from the representative, from the Black deputy that they brought down to be a mouthpiece because Shay wouldn't come down to talk, was that they last fiscal year spent $235 million of that $6 billion budget just settling conduct cases. So we as taxpayers are putting all of this money into this police department, and then they're taking that money that we have paid them to settle with us to avoid getting sued even further and having to pay us even more of our money back. Because they don't know how to conduct themselves. Because they are killing us in the streets. Because they are beating us in the streets. Make it make sense.
Thank you.
I mean, and literally, I mean, just within the last 2 days, right? Someone is sleeping in their car, right?
In Atlanta.
So, I mean, I just feel like literally, like, to me, like the training that's happening, I'm really curious. Who's training these people? Clifford the Red Dog? Who is training these officers, right?
I was one of them. I went to theater school, and the local police department hired the students at the conservatory to run all of their training drills. And let me tell you, those people sure shouldn't be out there being cops. I'll tell you that much.
Absolutely not. Look, it feels like we are all on the same page here with Defund the Police. Let's switch over to because it feels like people have forgotten that we are in a global pandemic. Because the weather got nice and people want to jump outside with a little tank top and booty shorts.
Always a booty short.
Always a booty short. Nothing wrong with a booty short. Get your little poom poom. But so protesting during a pandemic, should we not? There are people on both sides arguing the points. What say you, Andy?
I say literally, I would rather go out there and catch corona than literally be blind and silent and actually let someone else get killed. So for me, I just feel like it's actually, it needs to be done, right? I just feel like sitting home again and like literally allowing it to continue, watching another video. I can't watch another video.
No.
Right.
No.
I can't watch another trans sister, right? Or hearing her story of her being chopped up, right? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. So I'm going out and I'm going to be safe as I can, right? We have Purell, and literally I would say in New York City, I can't speak to everywhere, the amount of community support from folks having check-in stations, literally water, Gatorade, hand sanitizer.
Exactly.
I mean, literally it's like to see people bring out this level of humanity and Hugh as an HUE, right? That like we can all actually help each other. So for me, I think it's crucial that we continue doing the work, because not only that it. I just really hope that this continues and that we remember when we get to November, right? That we remember what's happening here. That like we don't just fall and become depressed voters.
Right. I was near Washington Square Park, and there was an older woman who was like a few floors up, and she had a poster on her window that said, "I'm 79, I can't come outside, but here's some sanitizer." And she was literally throwing out boxes of hand sanitizer down to us, and I was like, "This is amazing!" Like, to me, like just that one gesture of like, I can't come outside, but this is what I can do. To me, that goes beyond. Then like, it just goes beyond. And for me, the reason with the pandemic, I'm telling myself like, whether like I'm outside for whatever reason, like my chances of dying living in America are more probable than someone else. So I mean, I might as well be outside. I mean, I just might as well be outside, because I'm gonna somehow, some way, I'm gonna die. We even see with Breonna Taylor, like she was killed when she was sleeping.
Oh my God!
She was asleep. She was asleep, and she
Black
was murdered.
Jesus.
She was murdered. She was asleep. So I'm like, if I'm in the house or if I'm outside, that's not gonna stop them. You know what I mean? So I might as well be outside anyways, in the forefront, where I can also protect people. Because I am somewhat of a, I don't want to say a hothead, but I'm always
a
ready
hot tamale.
Right. I'm always ready to go. Always ready to go. So I'm like, I might as well be outside.
I'll say too, we've all been out there, and it's something that I've yelled about every time I've been out there, but
this is what I was about to bring up.
In a crowd of thousands and thousands, I look around to my brothers and sisters that are standing shoulder to shoulder with me, and they are wearing masks. Mm-hmm. We are walking, and we are hand sanitizing. And then you look over to the cops. You look over to the police that are standing there over and over and over and over in large groups, just the same, and not a single one of them is wearing a mask. And it happens every single time that I leave. And it was brought up during that public safety hearing, and they had the nerve to say, as far as we've seen, they're all wearing masks. And I just, who? Where? Because I've been out there.
Child, it's a hot mess.
It makes no sense to me. And then I'll go out. I bring extra masks when I go out. I will walk right up to them, and they're so busy trying to be all steadfast and be so stoic and act like they don't see me that they don't want to take the mask that's in my hand right there, ready to help protect. Because I don't let them catch it at this point. Like, as awful as that is to say, if you want to be dumb like that, but you need to protect us. I don't know if you're an asymptomatic carrier. And if you're standing there and you're breathing on me because you're in a huff about how happy I am to finally have a voice. And
because that's your whole tenet of your job, is to serve and protect.
Right.
Why are you not out here in a mask? I remember Peachez at Brianna's vigil at St. John's. You stood up on the steps in the midst of the crowd and were like, officers, if you need a mask, I have extras for you. And they all of them unmasked, arms folded.
Not a word.
When we left Fort Tryon Park that day, we're chanting, "Where are your masks? Where are your masks?" And one of them looked at us, was like smug. She really was like, me. I was like, what is happening?
And the craziest part is that most of them will have masks linked onto their gear. They'll have it right there. They're just choosing not to wear it. And it's such a slap in the face to see that.
Or my favorite is the little chin one up under the chin to protect the beard.
What is this chin strap? What is this chin strap?
Yeah. I mean, we are doing our things in New York City. We are like, the numbers are coming way down. New York City is at less than 400 new cases a day. So that is amazing. At the height, we were doing like 10,000. So it's insane that we've done so well with it, and so I'm glad to see that when I'm out there that protesters are masked and where possible trying to social distance. You know what I mean? Whenever you have thousands of people on Fifth Avenue, it's a little hard. Let's do one more question or one more topic and we'll wrap it up. Andy, what would you say? We'll go around and ask everybody this question. Andy, what would you say to somebody that is just afraid to protest? What would you say to that person?
I would say challenge that fear, but then allow yourself to like manifest it in other ways, right? If you're like, okay, I can't protest today, then what can you do, right? Can you send links, right, to some of your friends, right? Can you ask your company, maybe where you work, hey, we need to do a matching program, right? Maybe we can give up 10% of what we're earning this week, right? And maybe have that being sent to the organizations and to the folks who are out on the front line. And literally, I think we need to keep that same fervor and that same fire. But I would definitely say that if you don't feel comfortable, that's great, but definitely work and you can manifest in other ways. And it doesn't have to be about you marching, but it's about advocacy. And that advocacy starts right now.
Right.
Work. Miss Peachez?
I think I will also speak from my own experience. I have had a horrible time with formed agoraphobia from coronavirus. I was panicked to even leave my house for the first month and a half, 2 months. And then when these protests began, it was the fear of the virus compounded with the fear of being a Black man on the streets at this point.
Right.
So I hear every fear that anybody has. And I think if I'm going to lose my breath either way, from corona or from the police, I'd rather at least be outside and using the breath that I have to be vocal and to be loud about it and to try and evoke some kind of change. If you can't do that, that's fine. If you can't be a keyboard warrior, that's fine. The one thing that you can do and that all of us have to do is be an active citizen and take part in this political system, because if you're not voting, if you're not educating yourself to what bills are being passed, things will slip through the crack.
Right.
The man that is some people's president just passed a bill that undid so much work and that dehumanized so many people yesterday.
Right. Exactly.
Or the day before. And
on the day of the post anniversary.
On the day of the post anniversary.
Yeah. Yep.
And so when we take our eye off the ball for 1 second and we stop paying attention to what legislation is happening, who our leaders are, that's when we end up in these situations. And that's how we end up in even coronavirus. The way that it was handled, it has everything to do with who was in charge. And we are the ones in power. And this is finally our opportunity to take that power and make it mean something. And we've always had that ability, and I think this is our time to really wake up and say, this is the chance. You can vote absentee still. I just did mine today. You can do it.
Work.
We all can. But yeah, vote, please.
Eve, what would you say to that person who is afraid to protest?
Well, protesting is not, it doesn't just happen in the streets. Protesting happens in your house. Voting is protesting. Reading is protesting. Putting on your wig just for yourself is protesting. Learning is protesting. Black joy is protesting.
Yeah.
Like having like this, like just natural rebellion to what's happening around you, even though all of the odds have always been against us. Making the choice to get up and be like, I'm going to brush my teeth today and make myself breakfast, that is protesting. Calling out your racist white uncle, my personal experience, that is protesting. Like all of these things to me are a form of protest, because it looks different for everybody, because even though we're all on the same street, we're in different cars, but we are occupying the same street though. But it's like making it a point to share these lanes with one another, because like we each have separate personal battles that we have to face, like in order for all of us to progressively move forward at one time. Because those conversations that you can't have with your partner or your racist grandparents or even your own parents who are still stuck in this mindset of just like, it's not that bad, or it's okay, oh, it's only 2 trans people. No, it's like taking the time to have those conversations and be uncomfortable is also a form of protest. And I just want to bring up this amazing line that this woman said at a protest the other day. She said to make your friends angry. And I love that so much, because a lot of us, I feel like sometimes we teeter around wanting to like sacrifice or lose friendships that we've built. But to me, the friendship is pointless if I can't talk to you about my pain. The friendship is pointless if I can't voice my concerns about my rights. Like, that's not a friendship.
That's not a friendship, right?
We're just acquaintances. Like, if you can't be next to someone and have a a conversation where you can bring up these things and be able to express your opinion without someone saying the word but, then you're in the wrong circle. You're in the wrong circle. So I just want to advise anyone who is afraid to protest, being outside is not where it begins. It starts right where you're sitting. That's where it starts.
Then I would also add, Kizha, that like I feel. Oh, sorry. Oh, I was gonna say that like I feel that that the protest has to happen even when we're not around, right? Protest happens in those all-white spaces when folks are occupying space, right? You have to actually protest and advocate when we're not around because doing it in front of us is great, but actually when we're not there is when it's really powerful, right? Like when you're in those boardrooms, when you're having those panels, like when you're really trying to figure out what do we do about our next season, right? How do we be more diverse and inclusive, right? No, we need equality. Protests.
Right. I was even today at the Black Trans Liberation March, there was this group of like 3 white girls who had Black Lives Matter shirts on and a Black Lives Matter poster. And I was walking up to one of them to ask them like if the march was starting, and she got scared. She like startled when I walked up to her, and I was like, "You cannot have a Black Lives Matter poster and be scared to talk to Black people."
Nope, that's not the way this works.
I'm like, this is not
white people. All right. Look, I want to go out with this one last thing. This is my favorite protest chant that I've had since we've been being out in the streets. I love it. It gets me going, and I just want us all to say it together. You know which one it is. You know which one it is. And it goes a little like this: 1, 2, 3. No justice, no peace.
No
Fuck
peace.
these racist
ass police.
No justice, no
peace.
Fuck these racist ass police.
No justice, no peace.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much to Yves Dropper, Peachez, and Andy for joining us on this panel today. Dropped so much knowledge. We appreciate it. I hope you all got something out of this, and we will see you in the next panel. Bye.
Thanks for having us.
Y'all, love y'all. Be safe, please. Be safe out here.